Why don't you go ahead and get started, and I'll just go ahead and mute myself and I'll watch.
All right. Hey, everyone. So I'm going to demonstrate a few external modules today. Let me know if you have any problems hearing me or if I'm going too fast. So anybody who just joined us or who doesn't really listen to these every week, the external modules in REDCap provide some extra functionality for REDCap. They're small applications that people design. They're implemented in REDCap. Some of them get adopted by REDCap over time. And if you were interested in learning about those, on our CB2 website, we have a page that lists all of the external modules that we implement. So it's a pretty extensive list. So if we, some of them just describe the module and some additional documentation that come with it. These are the ones that are implemented at the moment. This is all up to date. We do add modules as they come up if we feel like people could use them or if it's something that our users would like. We also have some users who are very ambitious, and they look up the external modules on REDCap themselves, and so if they find something they like and would like us to implement, we would do that for them. For example, the PubMed search was a module that somebody wanted specifically for a project, and we implemented that. Now, these are all in REDCap, but in order to use them for a project, we have to enable them for you. So if that's the case, if you go to our requests link, which is on the home page here, and this account request form, if I click on it, it'll go to the live site, which is down. But if you click on this on the site, it'll take you to our request page. And this is for anything that's REDCap related. So if you need a new account, password reset, anything like that, this is where you would come. And for enabling external modules, you would come here as well. So you'd click on that you want to do the external modules, and then it has the list of modules that you can select. And you could just tell us which modules you want and which project. So if it's for an existing REDCap project, you would say yes or no, if it is, you would just tell us the title of it. And then that way, once we get the request, we can enable those modules for you. So the modules that I'm going to talk about today, let me get to my project. There's 3 of them that I thought they're kind of small, but they add some functionality, and I think they kind of go together. So I figured I'd put them together in one little project to show you how they go. So the first one is the complete row external module, and what this does is if you have a lot of fields on a form and you want to make sure that your users are entering all the information that they need to and they don't skip any fields, this module allows you to color the row for the field as data has been entered. So you could see if they've missed something. So it basically highlights the row to let them know that a value has been put into that field. And then another small one down here on the bottom is the instant field concatenation. That allows you to merge multiple fields together to create one long string of text. So for example, if you have a field with the person's first name and you have the first person's last name, you can create another field that automatically pulls those 2 values in and gives you like the participant name. And you can use that, pipe that anywhere else you want instead of having to build that from scratch. And then finally, the instance table is an action tag that you put on a field, a descriptive text field, and what it does is it allows you to show the instances as a table, like a spreadsheet view almost, instead of seeing one record at a time. So those are the 3 modules that I'm going to talk about today. Some of these modules, like this instance table, once we enable it, it's good to go. You're ready to use it right out of the gate. But some of them require some configuration on your part. So for the complete row, it's very simple. Really all you're doing is you're providing that color value for the row highlight. And they give you some options up here if you want it to be red or green or blue. And the stay green is that green color that automatically highlights in REDCap. It would just stay that color once it's got a value. I put like a light yellow in here, so you would put a hexadecimal value, an HTML hexadecimal value for that. So I set a manual color here. So let me show you how that works. So if I go to the record status there, I'll add a new record. So this green here is the default green that REDCap shows you which field has the highlight. And when I click on that, the green goes wherever I go. So if I enter a value, now when I tab out of it, it colors yellow. And you can see the field concatenation here for patient name. It's automatically pulling in those two values. But the important thing here for the complete row is that it's showing that the first name and last name have a value, date of birth doesn't have a value. And so if I put a value in it, now you can see that all these fields are yellow. So visually you can see that you haven't missed any piece of information for this field. It doesn't have anything to do with what's required or not. It's just you can use it in conjunction with being required. But it's going to highlight every field is the problem. So that's the complete row external module. So let me go back to the external modules list here, and I'm going to show you the instant field concatenation. So when you go to configure it, you have to tell it which destination field you wanted to place this value. And so for me, I've selected patient name from the drop down, and now what I'm doing is I'm adding fields that I want it to concatenate in order. So right now I just have a first name and a last name, and if I wanted to add another one, I would just click this plus sign here and select it. So if I had a middle name there, I would put that in there, but you would want to do it in order of how you want it to be concatenated. And then this checkbox, you just say whether or not you want a space between that. So you don't have to use it for just names. If you're building like a record ID or some complex identifier, and you want to put that together with multiple pieces, you can do that without the space to create like a, however many digit identifier that the person can have and use that for their record. So once we save that, if we go back to add edit records, see, and it automatically pulls it in. And the nice thing about this is you could do this with piping, but the problem is if this value didn't exist, if you didn't have a last name value, or you didn't have, like, we've run into it where we've done piping for first name, middle name, and last name, but if the person doesn't have a middle name, REDCap doesn't really know what to do with that. It tries to pipe in a value, but there's nothing there, so it just leaves like an underscore gap. And so this sort of gets around that by allowing you to create this patient name that you can pipe in somewhere else. Like if you want this patient name to show up on the header of every one of your forms, you'd be able to pipe that value in so that it shows up. And then the last one is a little more, it's a different way of entering data. And all you have to do here is create a action tag of instance table and your form name. So let me show you what I did. I have a checkup form that just, basic checkup measurements, height, weight, blood pressure, all of that. And if I want to see that in the record status dashboard, this is how it shows up. So I have 5 checkup records for this person, but I don't have any data that I can see. I can just see what I've put in as the identifier, which would be the date. But other than that, I can't see anything. I'd have to click on that value, that instance value, to bring up the record. to see that. Now,
Daniel, before you go on, can you just quickly show people again how to add the label so that people can see that on those instances?
Sure.
Thanks.
So for the repeatable instruments, once you've set that up, you would click on, this normally says enable because they're not enabled by default, but when you enable it, it asks you what you want the label for the repeating instrument to be. And it's optional. If it's not there, it just shows the instance number. And right now what I have in there is the checkup date. So I could do, if I wanted to, I could change it to first name, comma, or so I could add it as the name if I want to. That's not really going to help me because they're all going to be the same. But you would put it in the same way you would do piping, and you can add some simple punctuation like a comma, a space. You can add pipe characters and that dashes and things. So once I save this, it's going to refresh, and then when I go back to my record status dashboard, I can either click on here to open up the instances, and you can see here they're all John Smith. So that doesn't really help, but that's how you would set the label for those instances. So if I go back to my project setup, and I forgot the name of that field, checkup date. So now my date's back. So that's a simple way for us to see, the differences between, like, what instance am I looking at? We have some projects where people have like 50 instances of things, and so they can get pretty cumbersome. So that's kind of what I want to talk about today with this instance table, because what you have to do for the instance table is you can see here that there's a checkup table record here. And so what I did was, you could have it as a separate form. It's easier if it's a separate form because it's just one field. And all you do is you create a descriptive text field, and then you put the action tag at instance table equals and whatever your field name, your form name is. And you don't put it in quotes. So, and that's all you need to do to create this instance table. And you give it a label, a variable name, and that's it. Now nothing shows up here, but when I go back to my record status dashboard, if I click on the checkup table, now I can see all of the data that I put in for each one of those instances. So if I'm wanting to track this kid's growth or his weight, or I'm following up on some previous checkup, I can see all that information here in front of me instead of having to click on each one to see what this patient history was. And the nice thing about it is I can click on each one of these and bring them up as a REDCap form. So if I want to add a note, put ice on it, save it, close this, and then I refresh, it automatically refreshes for me. And let me turn off the complete row just so so now you can see that's how it would look without the complete row, because now the problem is it treats it like it's a whole table, so it's one value, so it puts all of those as yellow. But the nice thing is in here, you could have this set up to where you can search on these. If I want to sort on any of these values, I can. I can also add a new record from here. So let's see, you know, this person came in again. They came in today, you know, they grew another inch. Weight still the same, roughly, you know, have my, so I can add all my information right here and then save it, close this, and update again, and it's right there. It pops up just for me. So instead of seeing it in this way, and let me split screen here so you can see the difference. So now instead of having I'm having to click into each one of these to get this information, I can see it all as a table. So I think that's pretty neat. And it's pretty simple. And you could create another, it doesn't matter how many tables you have. You would basically create one for each form. So if I wanted a demographics one, what I would do is I would create a new instrument, and then let me grab that action tag. And then I'm just going to create another field, a descriptive text field. And now when I go to the record status dashboard, I should have another demo table here. This one's not going to help because there's no instances of the demographics. It should only just show one. Oh, there you go. It's not a repeating form. So if you have multiple repeating forms, which I guess we could just turn that into a repeating form real quick, just so you can see it. And this would be a good external module to use if you're tracking patient contact information, and over the years these people have moved from different addresses or they have different phone numbers, and every time you contact them you have to update their contact information. This would be a good example because you'd be able to see what their sort of history was of all their addresses, and you can see what the most current one was. So if we go back to the add edit records now, so now I have to add a new so now we go to the demo table. It should just show both of them. So you can have as many of these instance tables as you want. You could have one for each repeating instrument and use it as your data entry form instead of having to go through the basic REDCap data entry form.
Manuel, is there any reason that you can't have more than one of these tables in an instrument?
More than one in one instrument? Like if I put this, that's a good question.
Right.
So if I added it down here as another one?
Right. Yeah, exactly. That way you could manage everything on one instrument.
Let's see. That would be nice. There you go. That makes it even better.
That's sweet. That's really awesome. The search box is contained for the table. The add new is contained for the table. That is just really awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I'm glad you brought that up, Terry. So does anybody have any questions about these modules, or is there anything they want me to go over?
All right, so we still have a little time. I hate to waste it. One of the things I want to point out, so everything that Manuel was demonstrating today, and they are all external modules, and I just want to be clear that even though, for example, in this instance table situation that he was demonstrating, that he did use an action tag. So don't ever let yourself be confused by the fact that, go looking for an action tag like for this instance table and not see it and get confused. Understand that the instance table or the external module and the action tag work in conjunction with each other. So you need the external module enabled before you'll be able to see the action tag. And that is something that exists in more than just one external module. They tie those in once you add the action tag. Once you add the external module, then immediately the action tag will show up. So it's similar in a way, like when if you've used the external module for multilingual, as soon as you enable that, all of a sudden when you go to your online designer and open up an instrument, a box will pop up on the right to start helping you walk through that. Same thing. The action tag appears once you enable the external module. Thank you all for logging in, and hopefully next week we will have a clean, no problem red zone. So again, thank you all for showing up, and we'll talk to you again next week.